The following is a presentation of the Controltrends podcasting network.
Here we go. Talk Now, your smart building videocast and podcast for the week ending March 3rd. That's right, folks. March is here. Episode 305. I'm Eric Stromquist, and I am joined, as usual, by your co-host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Kenny Smyers, the control man or the snowbird from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, man, you've been out sunbathing today, right?
No, I have not been sunbathing. We got another 2 to 4 inches again last night, and February she beat us up pretty bad. But we're looking forward to the break in the weather. Next week we got a bitter cold coming. But as always, when I think of bad weather in Pittsburgh, it's nothing. When you look at Minnesota and Grand Forks, North Dakota, and it makes me feel a little bit better that somebody's got worse, crappier weather than we do. So.
Well, listen, dude, we don't have time to talk about that. We don't have time to talk about much of anything. You know why? We got 2 fabulous guests lined up. So let's get right to that. But before we do, check out the post on Controltrends this week. Big one, our friend Aaron Gorka. Another Next Generation Innovation podcast dropped today on Friday. Dropped on Friday. So be sure to check that out. And other good stuff on it, which we'll come to. You just have to go to the site to read it, controltrends.com. You can read. And Kenny, with that, let's introduce our first guest.
I'd love to, Eric. All right, Eric. Our next guest is the one and only Ken St Clair, owner-editor of Automated Buildings. And this month, we've got something really interesting because I think Ken is going to help us differentiate between artificial intelligence and automated intelligence. Welcome to the show, Ken St Clair.
Welcome, Ken Sinclair.
Thank you very much, Controltrends. Always a pleasure to be here.
Well, we appreciate it. I guess we should just start with maybe you got to be intelligent before any of that's relevant, right?
Actually, you're quite right. On one of the tweets, they actually picked that up, and they just pointed out that the intelligent part is us. We keep forgetting that. I think we try to imitate the artificial piece of artificial intelligence rather than the intelligent part. And it's hard. It's harder to be the intelligent part.
No, I was just going to say, Ken, that, it's another great addition. Just keep it coming. It is an amazing benefit to our industry that you're able to grab all this new stuff coming out and start to make sense of it. Because when I was reading some of your entries here in your first your editorial, when will we ever see artificial or automated intelligence come into being? I mean, are we close? I mean, like when you have our, like say, Scour Foundry, and I mentioned, you got somebody collecting information, data, somebody wrote a program, so you autonomize or automate, the collection of data, send it somewhere where it's being processed by another, basically program. So we took the humans out of the elements. It's going from, machine information back to computer machine information, and it completely lives. Is that, in your opinion, artificial intelligence, or what is
that? Well, what I'm sort of striving for is that we maybe try and redefine that a little better. Once it's done, and once it works, and once it's successful, I believe what it is automated intelligence.
Right.
And what we've done is we've learned how. And we probably did that through augmented intelligence. And we may have used artificial intelligence from computers to create that. But in the final analysis is when it's done, it's actually a couple of lines of code in this machine and a couple of lines of code in that machine, pushing information back and forth. So really all we've done is, does that look any different than the DDC loop? Or, it's just artificial, or automated intelligence. I keep getting my words mixed up here. The other thing is, took a look at Wikipedia and how they define artificial intelligence, and it's totally clear that they're confused as well. And one of their best definitions is that they like is that artificial intelligence is what hasn't been done. And I kind of like that definition too, is every once in a while we hear somebody thinking about something that's never been done, and they actually believe that they can do it. And once they do it, I think it changes. I think it is no longer artificial. I think it's either automated, it's either augmented. It's you know.
Ken, you're going to go down the history books for this, because Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," and now I think you've just rephrased that to, "I think, therefore I'm artificial."
Well, actually, there's a good one. Whoever chose the acronym for this broad method of having machines outthink us, and they called it artificial, and it's like,
oh wow,
artificial has never been a positive word. I don't think it's an adjective that we you look real artificial.
I think it's optimistic thinking on our part. But you told us a story right before we turned the recorder on about the two machines in the camera. Will you tell our audience that story, because I think that is very interesting.
Now, okay, what kind of goes along like this is as we start to automate intelligence, we have two machines. The first machine is a ring at somebody's doorbell, and it sees the person walking up and pre-records it. And when they push the button, it sends that pre-recording to another machine, and the other machine determines whether it's going to allow that person in. And there's all this data going back and forth. But when the artificial intelligence machines, they start to, so the decisions are no longer made by people. The two machines, they get together and they say, these people are so dumb. Why did they bother generating a picture and sending a file when in fact all we really need is the data? Because we don't know what a picture looks like anyway. We just know what the data looks like. So we see that face, there's a data pattern. When we see that data pattern, that's what we let the person in. So all of a sudden, this gets really scary, because they can do stuff faster, quicker, and better than us. So that's sort of getting into what I think artificial intelligence is when the machines start mocking us, which I think they may be doing a bit now.
Well, but Ken, I mean, this is what Elon Musk and some others have really gotten up in arms about and concerned about. And he's a hell of a lot smarter than I am. But okay, so let's take that same conversation between the two machines. And instead of, they're so dumb, they got, why do we don't need a picture, to, they're so dumb, why do we need them? So we got them in the building over there. Let's talk to our friend, the building automation system in building X, and we'll tell building automation system to lock all the doors and turn the heat on and override the bypass on the boiler so it blows up. That's one way we could get rid of them, right? I mean, this is...
Well, guys, there's several books on this, and I'll tell you what, I'm reading one right now, and it's by Daniel Suarez, and it's exactly that. It's the daemon. So the guy passes away, and he leaves behind a giant daemon that runs and competes against the top minds of the world, where it's based on a game. So your concept, Ken, I'm digging it, and here's why. I looked up artificial intelligence, and it just says anything that's not human. So you have human intelligence, that's innate to us. It's coming out of great minds like yours and Eric's and some of mine, but
there's no such thing as a dumbass machine, right?
So when anything that's not human is considered to be non-human or artificial. So, but I think what we're seeing, and again, I think we're moving to it because of exactly what you just said there. The data going on so fast with the recognition. Last week, our big thrust on Controltrends was we did shot recognition. So you had the ballistic sensors and things that could move so much faster and make so quick notifications. Human ears couldn't differentiate between a shotgun or I'm sorry, a bullet being fired versus a backfire from a vehicle, where the sensor could distinguish it immediately through the ballistics, through the sound, the acoustics, and the flash it gives, and notify something in 3 seconds, which takes a human. They're not sure what they heard, they don't know what to do, they're stymied or whatever. So that this benefit is exactly, I think too, it's an artificially gained intelligence where we don't have the capabilities innate to ourselves. We turn it over to our algorithms that are powered by IP connectivities, and zip, we get the benefit of this artificially provided intelligence that is or isn't the bad guy, or is or isn't the good guy, or whatever. So anyhow, great subject.
No, but I just want to take it one step further, Kenny. And Ken, Ken Sinclair, I don't know whether you had a chance to listen to last week's episode, but Roger Rebanak and Honeywell come up with this sort of, the using those sensors and then incorporating them so that if something does happen, the first responders know exactly where to go, and it can save a lot of lives. But Kenny, the next step of this is they're not going to send first responders. They're going to send a drone in there. A drone's going to go in the school and track those guys down or bad people down just like that. So again, it's very ironic that on one level we get very, very much safer and everything is a lot more convenient, but on another level, we're really opening ourselves up to some huge vulnerabilities here if Elon Musk and some of these other folks are right. It's okay. I'm not worried about guys because I'm already, Elon Musk has got this deal. He's already started this company where they got the chips for the brains, and I'm on the waiting list for that. And if it gets too bad with the machines, I got a ticket to Mars, so I'll be out of here.
Maybe I'll go back and spin off of Ken's comment is that his definition of artificial is anything that doesn't involve us. And I think, I'm not sure about you, but I'm not sure I want to talk about anything that doesn't involve us. So that's why I'm back to automated intelligence and interaction. Yeah.
But the other component has to be the self-learning aspect of it too, right? I mean, that has to filter in whether it's automated or artificial, that it can begin to learn, right? With the self-learning algorithms, that's got to be a piece of it, I would think, Ken.
But I'm not sure that I don't see that as that's again as an automated intelligence is basically it's just learning how to better automate is another perception, a way to look at that. Anyway, it's early days. I don't know if you caught the end of one of my articles there. Then I talked about awful-mated buildings, and we went through a period. It's actually a 2002 article that I included linking to, and what happened with this was as we hit the web. So we went through the DDC. We went through awful-mated buildings several times. We went through awful-mated buildings in the early days of DDC. We had all these DDC systems that didn't really work, but they were so exciting that we kept on pursuing until we actually figured out how to make those things work. And then we hit the web and we started getting a whole bunch of stuff. Is the web controlling this? There's a DDC controller. We had those. And I don't see this as any different. We're exactly in the same spot, except we've got this intelligence automation that's kind of falling from the sky on us. And we're into another period of awful-mated buildings until we get this straightened out.
What do you see some of the possible headwinds? I mean, in terms of the problems, when you say awful-mated, I mean, obviously when we went from pneumatics to DDC, there was a learning curve and things sort of had to get worked out. Do you see anything different with the awful-mated controls now?
It's going to go faster. There's going to be more people involved in it because of the IoT industry. And ultimately, I think what the problem is the bend back to what Ken said, is that artificial is defined as things that don't involve us. And I think if we turn loose a machine, it's not going to run the building the way we want, whether it attacks us or even if it doesn't attack us, it even tries to run it to the best of its knowledge. It's going to need some guidance, and we need to learn. So what I see, the intelligent automation phase era, and that's the era I think we're in right now, is we need to learn more about what we can do with this technology, how much we can machine learn, because we got to learn how to walk before we can allow AI to run our buildings.
Well, I agree with you. And again, it's always fun to take things to an immediate the furthest point from reality or likelihood. But in your March edition, you also we have another great article and great background to some really heady thought, but actually it gives us the nuts and bolts of it from Siddha Yamthi again. and how, you know, she takes the example of the autonomous vehicle and how what it does, it reduces the risk of life. It reduces, you know, it frees humans to do more things, you know, that the car can do. That it alleviates you from doing work. It's, you know, it's like the amazing thing that the locomotive did versus the horse and buggy thing. So she has a great article in there. What did she bring to you as far as the you know, her insight using the autonomous vehicle analogy to our buildings? I mean, it's a great article, but I thought, you know, what was your synopsis of that?
I think I summarized it in a tweet this morning, in the fact that we were pushing back and forth some stuff, and I said that you know, the having your driverless vehicles running into our buildings, I think is really good stuff, because this whole autonomous side of the automated vehicle has a whole bunch of social issues. It has a whole bunch of quick control things you were talking about. There's no way that you know, that some of this stuff can be controlled so quick. And that's, of course, the second part of our theme. We're talking, the theme is the automated intelligence with autonomous interactions. I don't know that we've really thought of it in two pieces like that. Here's the intelligence of what it is we're going to do, and then as soon as we do it, there's a reaction. Let's put in another control loop to control the reaction. And I think if we look at the auto industry, they're spending scads of bucks on this, and they're moving through. So I think we need to kind of try and understand better what they're doing. Ironically enough, her articles this month are right on our nose, talking about what they're doing in Stanford there. And the young girl on energy prediction is amazing. It picks up on last month and fills right in. And she's particularly well spoken, and she speaks to it. I think what we also have to, you know, get used to is people are going to call it artificial intelligence, or call it augmented intelligence, or automated intelligence, and we're going to get used to the fact that maybe it's just best we call it AI, and then substitute our own definition of that.
Connotative definition. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah. Well, okay. So the next article.
I don't know. I want to hop in real quick, if you don't mind, Kenny, before you get to the next article. I think one of your buddies is responsible for all these annoying phone calls I'm getting from these chat bots.
Oh yeah,
those damn things are talkative as hell. But speak a bit, if you would, because it seems like we might be going from a GUI, graphical user interface, to a CUI, which you've been talking about for a while. But now I see it in black and white, and I was connecting the dots here and going, inadvertently, Ken, you're responsible for all these damn calls I'm getting from these machines.
No doubt, no doubt. My only defense is they all come with an autonomous interaction, and the autonomous interaction is if you don't ever answer the phone or say hello, they don't do anything. So if you actually can outthink them, so if you when it comes, you get one of these chatbot calls, if you don't say anything, and nobody says anything for about a half minute or something, you can just hang up because it's no person. So anyway, the what do we call it?
CUI.
Conversational user interface, text, voice, and more. So we're seeing this. I mean, it's running rampant now with speakers and all kinds of devices that actually have the Hey Googles and the Alexas built right into them. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. And now what I think the conversational user interfaces is that now devices will start talking like that, and we can start using WhatsApp, WeChat, iMessenger, and some of these things. And actually, the very quick segue is that we could actually text to turn the lights on. The big advantage of that is it keeps a record of all of the commands. You can say to your wife, "You turned the heat up," and she said, "No, she didn't." And she says, "Well, it shows at center time you put it up 5 degrees." So
Yeah, you know what? You know how that conversation goes.
Yeah.
That damn machine is obviously wrong, Ken. You're not going to win that argument.
Or call my lawyer.
Yeah.
Actually, I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring that up early when Ken was talking about how carefree these machines could think, and I think that was the biggest single thing, is that machines can move without lawyers. So that's the thing that immobilizes us all.
Well, then you know what? There might be a silver lining after all, my friend. Ken, you had a question for Ken.
No. I just, again, there's so much to talk about. Every time we're bringing something up. So again, it's a collection of jewels. I think, because going over the March articles and how they come together, like you say, it's like a phenomenon. You start a subject, and all of a sudden something provides. It's like willing it into being. Like you get this critical mass, and all of a sudden people are also thinking that way. And just that part from Sid, the article from Siddha Jamthi. The contributions inside that article are immense, because it talks about the energy, the automatic provisioning of in other words, if we had a limited amount of energy on the grid and we had to sustain the most important critical buildings and whatever, and we're going to one day rely on that to be done through. I just watched a presentation on a new drive coming from Siemens. And this drive is already smart grid ready. In other words, it's ready to go to the next level and not go into the network, but go right to the cloud. And it can put eight VFDs on an application, and it can alleviate BTU meters, because the VFD can calculate the flow and see how many BTUs you're using, saving. I'm thinking, holy moly, this is another thing that you were talking about. Right before we have our session here, I listened to this. And I'm thinking, this is getting really, really interesting, because if you could put this artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence or automated intelligence to work, we are going to become a greener planet quicker. We're going to be able to use this to take the best steps forward. But I think what you said true, that if somebody doesn't answer the phone, guess what? Nothing happens. No artificial or augmented intelligence occurs, because if people don't start using this technology in buildings, we're not getting anything done.
Well, yeah, but you're saying it's reactive now, meaning you have to initiate the step, but that's pretty easy.
Yeah, you have to make the step. You have to take the investment.
Right.
You have to invest in technology.
Right. No, you have to invest in technology. But your point, which is a very valid one, like your Ken's point about the phone, if you just don't say anything,
right,
it doesn't activate, the program.
Chatbot.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of a very calm, good thought. But then eventually it'll be where they'll just be proactive. They'll figure out, well, that's Ken Sinclair again. I'm just going to start damn talking, because I know he's not going to say something first. And then, then they'll start sending pictures or something to you. It'll be crazy. But
I think this might be the edge of the automated buildings and automated interfaces and stuff that we need to work out. And I think that's why we have to be involved in this too. I'm not sure that artificial intelligence is going to be able to figure that out and come up with any better solution. What it would say is the solution we don't want to hear is they don't ever talk to a human. They're just impossible. Only talk to machines.
Well, it's funny you say that, because, I was thinking while you were talking about what's the definition of artificial intelligence, Kenny had a good one, you had a good one. And I was going to say that, well, you'd have to have an original thought to not be artificial intelligent. But then I think about it, I'm not sure us humans have many original thoughts either. There's some of us that do, but it really is fascinating. And then what I'm really interested in, forget the buildings. I'm serious about this, putting the chip in the brain. I mean, having augmented intelligence on board, connected to your mind. And Musk has been working on that. So it's literally, you're not going to have to go to school anymore. You're just going to buy the chip for American history, and you'll know everything you need to know about it.
Actually, I think I was really pleased with Teresa's article this month, and I think it came partly from her going up and spending some time with the folks at Bedrock in Detroit and watching what they're doing up there. And she came out and she's picked up on this theme, and she calls it the community of practice in building automation. You can actually even drop the building automation, because it's basically, I hadn't seen it so clearly as she depicts it, that we all belong to a community of practice. And both of your supply companies are communities of practice. And basically that's what you're selling, and that's your really your value. And automated buildings is a community of practice. People who actually believe in somewhat a common belief of, of how we might automate buildings. We also have things like BACnet, which is a community of practice. We have Niagara. And basically what's happening is they're becoming the building blocks of our industry. And this is how we build stuff, is when you find a community of practice that you haven't been exposed to, you guys are all excited, and then you figure out, how can we make that community of practice part of our community of practice, and that increases your value. That's a lot of what I think we all do, is basically share this information. The advantage of attaching yourself to a community of practice is it comes complete with resources, people who understand that. And we need to keep creating those and basically distributing that information. So anyway, I think that's going to be our next direction. That won't be the theme for April, because the theme for April is going to be cybersecurity. But halfway through it, I'm going to write an article on the community of practice, and just kind of tie all of these communities together. And if you just let your mind roll and think, how important are all those things to your business, your everyday business? I mean, you could say, you could almost go down your drawers there, or your aisles, and you say, this belongs in the BACnet, this is a Niagara, this is a Johnson, this is a, all of them are communities of practice that you're doing it. What's your big claim to fame? One of your big claims to fame is that you cross over many lines of communities of practice. That's
sure. And Ken, I think when I read that, I had this word pop out that kept coming up with that was your collaboratorium. In other words, the thing that I think I've witnessed, or we've all witnessed, but in particular, is how quickly certain things get done when there's that collaboration or this community of practice where you overlay all these experts and all these leading pioneers, because we're talking about three things right there that were all articles. Project Haystack, and their biennial Haystack Connect conference is coming up in San Diego mid-May. ControlsCon, Scott Cochran, he's got a great spring conference coming up where Cochran is going to share a great deal of information, regarding new technologies and things that just it's very important. So yeah, I dig that community practice. It makes total sense what you're saying and what Tree says. But
can you see it? I shared it on your screen.
Cool graphic. Can you see?
Yeah, that she went back to this Nydia and got approval to reproduce this graphic. But if you kind of just read all the little things that are written around there, that's what you do every day, right? Listening, challenging, buildings, sharing, everything that's on that thing is basically what your companies do to pull together your community.
Give and get, support, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So just it's kind of, I don't know. We used
authentic.
To
we always say about how you have to filter because there's so much out there. The generational engagement. So there's our young guns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's kind of amazing that this is kind of a map of who we are and where we came from. And I think we need to work more on this map so we can better understand what I might be talking about, because I probably don't understand what automated intelligence might be. I think what we have to do is kind of maybe do an intelligence inventory.
No, Ken, listen, you're missing the whole point here. Look, I'll have my machine call your machine, and they can have lunch and figure all this stuff out. We're not going to have to communicate anymore. We'll just have the machines will have the community of practice. That's where you're going with this, right?
Well, I don't know. Look at all the touchy-feely things on the docket there. Yeah, that's one thing machines aren't You know,
Well,
like
yeah, like you're saying, caring, healing, and listening are new superpowers. Yeah, that's
yes,
pretty.
I'm going to tell you something, though, but you have to ask yourself a question: is empathy, which is what all those things are, is that a learned skill? Because I told you this on the show before when I was in Southern California about 2 years ago, the debate on the radio, because they just come out with the sex bots and they were teaching them artificial intelligence so they could be more empathetic. And the debate on the radio is if you had sex with a sex bot, were you cheating? So it's, it's, if you think about it, I think empathy is learned. We teach our children how to be empathetic. At least I think that we could debate that, whether that's an innate human quality or if that's something we just learn when we get culturalized by, growing up by our parents and going to school. And if it is, if
I
that's
think it's
the
both.
answer to the question, then we'll be able to program it into the machines and they'll be more empathetic than we are.
Well, to Ken's point, I think that's both. I think that's what you can't put inside artificial intelligence or machines is you can't put that innate stuff in. You have different psychologists saying different things, but we all come from the same well of consciousness. We pass through what's his name? You different Freud, and then Freud's colleague came through with Jung, where we all, with this guy Joe Campbell, travels the world, 150 countries, and how 150 different countries come up with the same basic belief system about how you got here and where you're going afterwards. But to your point, I think the subjects that we're talking about is that this thing almost looks like a 1970. Remember how we did the we generation, I generation, we generation, or the me generation, we generation? It almost looks like our whole concepts are taking a different direction, where it used to be individuals. There were the major players in the industry and they dictated stuff, and now we're seeing all this technology come in and it's just dumping all these new possibilities, and so this community of practice, to me, is an extension of basically the thing you did with the clavatorium. I've never seen so many people be willing to share so much what used to be like a sensitive information or proprietary information, but they want to get something done. And in order for them to get their agenda done quicker, they collaborate with somebody that's also doing something better than they are. And instead of each trying to create their own wheel, they're putting together this community. And it's an amazing thing, because Haystack we're going to talk about Haystack at some point, and we just have to celebrate what they did, because that's what they did. They did this amazing linkage of a lot of people that couldn't really define how they were going to get there. Somebody laid down a map and then people contributed to it. And next thing you know, you got a yellow brick road.
Well, listen, I want to follow up on your last episode, or excuse me, last month's edition, because you know what, you have become quite a cult hero amongst the young guns in our industry for numerous reasons. But the big one is, and I'm going to ask you to expand on this, is when you disrupt disruption. And so one of the questions we got from our community is, ask Ken, talk about the process of disrupting disruption. I mean, how would I do that? Because seriously, we're bringing in, we're kind of like a hero to these folks now, Ken. How do we disrupt disruption?
Well, I think it's interesting once you learn how to grow younger, which is a skill that takes a bit, and you basically bring these guys on as trusted advisors and start to understand and try to get inside their heads, or at least closer to it. You understand what the significance of being a digital native is. I mean, we're looking at this from such a wrong way. We keep going off on these tangents. They don't even think about that. They grew up with all this stuff falling on them, and they understand. They don't have the fear of the machine that we do, because they understand the machine. They understand data. They give it the data. We take the data away. And I think they just see it in a completely different light. So for them, disrupting disruption, although they do it to themselves as well, because they're way ahead on the front. Some of the stuff they're disrupting is totally amazing. I barely understand, but our disruption is easy. It's easy to disrupt us, and disrupt the disruption is easy as well, because our industry is slow to move, and we're actually starting to see some of this stuff coming. We're actually seeing Wi-Fi sensors. We're seeing the wire disappearing in our buildings, and more devices, more IT devices starting to appear. So that's very disruptive, but inside of it comes a gazillion opportunities, and we're getting where we had like a very small slice of the industry, things that we're involving in a greater piece of the industry. So I don't know. Did that answer it? Wasn't a very good answer.
I was kind of hoping you'd say something like, we got to kill the machines or something like that. We got to rise up.
Well, listen, let's transition.
That's what I was going for. But
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. Again, you got an amazing.
But you'll have to kill the kids first, because that's they're becoming closer and closer to these machines, and they'd rather talk to the machines than us.
That's true. I saw somebody put I don't know where it was, LinkedIn or somewhere, but it had all these kids in this beautiful museum in front of one of the most classic art. And they were all, not a single child was looking up at the art, and they were all on their phones and looking at each other's iPhones or smart devices or whatever. And it really caught it all, to be in the middle of our world, thinking that, we had put these things on the wall to epitomize the highlights of humankind and our loftiest, artists, and these kids just totally, not interested. And so,
except it's funny, because sometimes the guys looking at it, and what they'll tell you is that's not really the original. The original is in Spain in this small town. This is a copy. It's funny. They're always checking facts. Like you assume that sometimes they're doing something different, but sometimes they're just way ahead of you and looking at.
I'll tell you what. I learned my lesson on that when we were talking about an old timer walks in the office. Johnson Controls had a conference a couple years ago. Eric and I were at it, and they explained the mistake. They had invested so much money in recruiting the top young guns they could possibly get their hands on, and then they were losing them after the second year, and it all boiled down to their boss. And the one classic example they gave through, where they had the out briefing, and the people could hear what they were being accused of, or the boss's criticism from the young person's perspective. And here it was that the guy thought they were all screwing around on their smartphones, and they were actually doing work and research, because the companies, their computer system was so slow and lagging, and they had so many securities to it, that they couldn't get the information they needed to complete the project that was due. So they were actually doing double time using their own device to get some information that the computers that they were given to as their work computers couldn't perform. And so it's just, but he looked outside, he said, everybody's playing with their phones. They're playing games. There was an assumption that they were screwing off. And here they were very, professionally, trying to get the dang job done. And they were being, they were being hindered by. Anyhow, you've got a couple good articles. This thing by Mark Peacock, and it's got a nice picture, and it says, the built environment has been changing drastically. But what does Mark say? He says, "Is 2019 the year of truth for the built environment?" And he has all these questions. He has, will 2019 be the truth that our dialogue centers around the proven technology? So what do you think about that? It's like the 10 commandments of the built space.
Yeah, it's good. I've included in my article a link to it. It's super. Mark always is very succinct in being able to kind of pull that around. And it's okay. So maybe this is the truth of artificial intelligence that I'm talking about, is that I'm saying, maybe we don't want to call it that. Maybe we want to call it automated intelligence. And I don't know, sometimes by just calling something different, you start the discussions. And I think that's what I really want to do, is start the discussion.
Well, Ken, I think you got to add on to your name. It's going to be automated buildings and intelligence. How's that?
That's right. Well, the other problem is, if I didn't call it automated intelligence, then that'd be obsolete. I'd have to, there was two choices. I either had to change automatedbuildings.com to artificialbuildings.com. And I don't think that would have sold, would it?
No.
After 20 years, automated buildings turns to artificial buildings. So we had to go to automated intelligence.
I like that. I do. I'm voting for the automated versus art. I don't like artificial either, now that you think about it, because, It always meant something, not necessarily sinister, but not necessarily as as flattering as it could be. In other words,
Right.
artificial means something that's made up and not genuine. And so maybe we will help the next group of solution providers change it from artificial intelligence to automated intelligence.
So Ken, listen, the
Richard,
March issue is out, automatedbuildings.com. Be sure to check it out. Ken, will you be able to hang around a little bit longer and talk with us?
Sure, I can.
Okay, Ken, so where are you going to be traveling this spring? It looks like we might be crossing paths a little bit.
Okay, well, we're off to Detroit in early May to ControlCon. We was just before this conference call, I was talking with Scott and the Bedrock, Joe from Bedrock, and exciting stuff happening there. Actually, he just come back from Korea, and going to be some amazing stuff. I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. But
yeah, well, don't do that. We're going to be there too, so it's going to be good times.
Yeah,
and,
no, but if I told you today, I would have to kill you. But once you're there, it'll be okay.
Well, no, was Scott in Korea, or the guy from Bedrock?
Actually, Scott was fighting icebergs in a ferry coming out of the lake or something like that.
Oh my!
He was driving in his car. I asked for video, and he took his phone and held it up against the windshield and told me I was driving. So
nice. So listen, you can still go there. There are links both on automatedbuildings.com site and Controltrends. Hey, if you get a chance to go to this conference, it's fantastic. And the next big conference we got coming up is Haystack, and our next guest is going to be able to talk a bit about that, Kenny. So how about introducing him?
I'd love to. In fact, I'd like to introduce Rory Barnwell. He is a group principal at DLR. And the DLR group was recently recognized at the Controltrends Awards because they won the Project Haystack Award. And that's a very, very exciting thing. And we're very happy to welcome to the show Rory Barnwell. Welcome to the show, Rory.
Hey, Roy. Good to see you again, buddy.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Great to be here. Great to see you all.
Yeah, see you too. You were on episode 222, and I'll always remember that. It was great, lively conversation. And could you give us sort of a refresh and an update on what's going on with the LR group?
Sure. Well, yeah. Thanks again, guys. Really excited to be back on again. I guess, just to recap on DLR Group and who we are and what we do. And so we're a large design firm. 1,200 people, 30 offices around the globe. Architects and engineers. Our core market sectors are education, workplace, justice and civic, hospitality. We're actually the largest education design firm in the world, so that leads us down some pretty interesting paths. That's kind of we're busy. I'm sitting here in Chicago right now and looking out the window at all the cranes and all the new construction going on. So yeah, we're
just trying to make it.
We're busy. Everyone's busy.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, Rory, we're very happy to see you down in Atlanta, and when you recognized you right away, and we were able to say hello before the show actually got underway. But you won a pretty impressive award. Tell us about the Project Haystack Award and how you guys won that.
Well, it was quite an honor. We've obviously been big believers in Haystack and practitioners of the Haystack methodology and what we do and how we collect and organize and analyze data through our smart building practice, our monitoring based commissioning, what we call building optimization. That's the practice I lead. It was quite an honor. Great. I mean, what a night that was, the Controltrends Award. Fantastic venue. Yeah.
So Roy, from an engineer and designer standpoint, as well as an energy optimizer in buildings, for our community who might not know, what do you see the advantages to Project Haystack?
Well, again, for us, a large part of what we do within DLR Group, our building optimization practice is just dealing with data. And at the end of the day, we're trying to answer the same questions as everyone else in our community: is what do we do with that data? How do we make it actionable? How do we organize it and create some actionable insights from that data? So whether we're trying to optimize the energy use of a 1 million square foot commercial office high-rise in downtown Chicago, or a college campus in the suburbs, it's the same trying to answer the same questions as everyone else. You know,
What are those questions,
leverage.
Roy? To interrupt on that, because I think we want to get Ken St Clair involved here. But what are the clients asking for now? What are your types of clients, and what do they ask? So you're the largest provider of services to the education world. What are they asking for?
Yeah, I mean, so taking education as an example, you know, we're working with large school districts here in Chicago, across the country. Getting ready to go out for large bond referendums. You know, they're trying to answer some big questions like, are we, how are we, here in Chicago, we've got a couple of districts going out for, $180 million bond referendum. Down in Texas, it's, they're closer to $1 billion. Everything's bigger in Texas, right? But they're all trying to answer the same questions: is, should we build new versus renovate? Are we throwing good money after bad? How are these buildings performing? And should we invest in these existing buildings? Should we decommission them and build a newer, higher performing buildings? And they're asking the same questions. How do we benchmark buildings? I think we've recognized as an industry and this community in particular that energy benchmarking alone is not a good indicator of how well or how poorly a building is performing. So we're starting to look at the other key performance indicators that tell us how well a building is performing. I.e., indoor environmental quality. Tracking indoor air quality, thermal comfort of occupants, acoustic comfort, visual comfort. User functionality. These are things that we're trying to tie real data to versus, we've talked about them. I think this conversation has been pretty mainstream for the last couple of years.
Oh, absolutely. So the metrics, though, do you guys, are you able to provide additional metrics to improve the understanding of how important those things that you had mentioned, lighting, acoustics? I mean, does that really have a profound impact on the educational environment, or is that more?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think we're getting past, we've made a very focused decision to kind of try and, there's so much noise and marketing, pitches, spiels, whatever you want to call them. We've really focused on trying to get some good case studies and trying to, for example, a couple of cool projects we're working on right now. We're doing a large project with the GSA where we're partnering with the Harvard School of Public Health, Dr. Joe Allen's group, where we're trying to evolve their post-occupancy evaluation process and really try to add another dimension to their, what they're trying to build up an evidence-based design library, so they, can continually iterate we're working directly with their global workplace leader, and adding in that real-time indoor environmental quality, more than just air quality, occupant satisfaction, putting real metrics to that and tying that back to worker productivity. So that's, again, I think that's been a mainstream conversation now for a couple of years, where I'm pretty excited with the crossover between, worker productivity, the workplace, getting some proper metrics for that, to education. So now we're starting to see equal amounts of research being done, if not a little more now at the moment, with student achievement. How does the performance of the built environment, the classroom, impact the students' learning ability? The cognitive function of a child's brain, is the classroom ventilated enough? Is it too hot, too cold? Are the acoustics poor? Are the lights too harsh or too dim? We're working in school districts that had kind of lighting retrofits that were driven by energy, not so much the function of the classroom. And again, trying to tie that back to how engaged the student is, and ultimately student achievement. And I think we're looking at more or less the same ties as on the workplace side and office and productivity.
So what are the studies showing, Roy?
Well, honestly, we're in the middle of working on this GSA project is ongoing. It's on the boards right now. That's why it's top of my mind and kind of what I'm excited about. So I would say look for I think this would be the third iteration of the COG-FX study from the Harvard School of Public Health.
Nice.
And so that, that's only going to get, there's just going to be more iterations of that until, I think we've drawn it common sense, I think now we're just trying to put real data to it. And, another project I'm really excited about, we're working with Chicago Public Schools, third largest school district in the country, where, they're exploring an initiative for what it takes to have a net zero school. And, we can have it's really easy to have a net zero school, right? And just turn off the lights, board up the windows, tell the kids to wear some coats and light some candles, but obviously we want to take a bit more sophisticated approach than that. So we're, using the same data gathering, collecting data, organizing it, analyzing it, modeling it for future retrofits, trying to show a map, basically a roadmap for how can we get to net zero, and what is it feasible? I mean, that's the question we're trying to answer.
Well, Roy, I don't know if you met Ken St Clair yet, and we want to get Ken involved here because Ken's doing some amazing work bringing emotions to buildings. In other words, we're taking the things like Comfy that began way back when, where it was giving people with smart devices the opportunity to interface with building automation system to get some kind of an immediate response if they needed air conditioning or heating or whatever. And as soon as they were comfy, they hit a button and say Comfy. So Ken has done a lot of studies and a lot of work on it. Ken, I know you got to have a good question for Rory regarding these exact studies, because isn't this the chance that the emotional side of a building can be exposed through these new retrofit, through these new programs?
I think he has an excellent start, and actually, I'd like to start by applauding what he's doing, and his company is certainly for a major consultant to embrace Haystack and the other health parameters of buildings and put them in their lead is significant, and I think he is definitely an example to a lot of consultants who are kind of hiding their head from all of this. And so he's well on his way, and as he exposes all this data, he is going to be able to interpret the emotion of a building probably better than anybody. And the fact it's going to be in Haystack standards is also exciting, because that means that when we do analytics and we start to use voice interface and deviceless interfaces and autonomous interactions, I think he's ahead of the game. And even to speak to our March theme, the automated intelligence, I think he's well on his way to achieving that as well. So I would probably just start with a whole bunch of kudos.
Nice.
Thanks very much. No, I appreciate it, Ken. That means a lot coming from you. Thank you.
No, well, actually, the question I would like to ask you is, how do we get a string of consultants like you? I mean, that's our problem as an industry, is we have traditional consultants that are controlled by lawyers that are immobilized and they're putting in their 1956 system because they're worried that they're going to get sued if they try anything new. So you guys have somehow moved over into risk management and are looking at changing the world. How'd you do that?
I mean, honestly, I think where the industry has been driven by the transparency of data, whether we're talking about energy or whether we're talking about indoor air quality, indoor environmental quality in general, the level of transparency in this data is just we're at the tip of the iceberg there. The sensors are becoming cheaper, more available. We can practically do real-time indoor air quality monitoring. We're working. Friend of the show, Alper, he's on it. Alper's already working on getting real time. We're going to be using his sensors for to track this real time. Very affordable sensors that are high quality. That are going to still meet the well building standards for accuracy. The problem with sensors is you get what you pay for. So if you can get the correct we're tracking typically CO2. That's the one we all kind of default to, but also VOCs, how the material selection impacts the environment. PM 2.5, how the particulate matter in the airstream, how well are we filtrating the air, how clean is the air. A lot of this technology comes from China, believe it or not, because the outdoor air is so poor over there that this is kind of the initiatives. The badge of honor in China is to show that, hey, it's not necessarily I got a LEED platinum building, it's that I've got a building with clean air. And you start to see initiatives like, the RESET certification. RESET is a certification that's primarily based on just, it's only based on indoor air quality, so.
Don't give us artificial intelligence, give us artificial air.
Yeah, right.
As engineers, we'll be creating our own air soon. Yeah.
Well, it's a fun time. It's an exciting time. It's frankly, it's a little bit it's a scary time. For when we disclose this amount of information to building operators we work with, property management firms we work with, national REITs, ourselves as a design firm. Now, our level of transparency, our post-occupancy evaluation for our own designs has become a lot more rigorous. So, not only are we focused on energy and the outcomes, and okay, are we going to hit this EUI for the building? But now, well, are we going to hit this threshold for CO2 levels, for particulate matter? For the materials that was, everything from the carpet that's been selected, it impacts the indoor air quality.
Sure.
Impacts and in effect knock on.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's it.
So no, I just wanted to pick up on that that's another interesting side of it, is that the devices and the things are starting to talk to us. I just came off a conference call with getting ready for the ControlCon event in Detroit, and Joe from Bedrock had just come back from Korea, and he'd been talking to the LG folks, and the LG folks on their units are absolutely prepared to provide complete open all of the information they have internal to their units. And so all of a sudden we pick up, that's like a whole new world to us, is where the OEM always kind of kept everything and you bought it, and you never really knew what it does. Now, into your transparency of data, you're having these machines, and as a consultant you can control that in the fact that you say, I want devices that are more transparent, and that they give me my data. If they don't give me my data, I'm going to buy product B, not product A, because this guy gives me more data. Whoever gives me the most data may be the product, as long as it's the thing.
Absolutely. And to that point, to answer your original question, how do we get more people on board? I think the really nice thing about working with an entity like the GSA is that they're doing this to be a leader. Everything we're doing is going to be publicly available. There's no secrets there. Everything we're going to be doing is completely open, and we're going to share best practices.
Super.
And that's why so we've teamed with Harvard, and they're just going to continue to do great things and change the industry. And we're starting to see Lawrence Berkeley National Labs and the Department of Energy get on board with these same metrics, and we've ourselves and 4 or 5 of our other peer companies are currently working at early stages with the national labs and Department of Energy to kind of just roadmap out how prevalent the types of analytics that we're doing. And
you're still really busy. I wanted to get the couple of things that you just came back from an important trip this morning, didn't you? You were in Minneapolis, Minnesota this morning, and you came back.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, Minneapolis is near and dear to my heart. It's where it's my second city. So I grew up in Ireland, if you can't tell from my accents, but Chicago is my first city. But I've been here for 20 years now. But my wife is from Minneapolis. Our Minneapolis office is we're kind of tied at the hip with them, how we're structured regionally. Our CEO sits up there. I came back from probably the only place right now, the only major city that's colder than Chicago at the moment, and I wasn't quite sure if I'd make it out with the snow up there today. But I was up there, for a very special reason. We were kicking off. Well, not kicking off. We had my good friend Brad Colt over at HGA has over the past year, 18 months, been very successful with a couple of more teammates that heads up there and getting the big TC group going. That's the Building Intelligence Group, Twin Cities. And so we had a great meeting. We've had some great meetings over the past couple of months. And that's really, so last night there was maybe 60, 70 people, kind of the same cross-section of crowd that you'd see at Realcomm, IBCon, so systems integrators, vendors, some of the more proactive design consultants, the usual suspects, but everyone commented on, there's really no outlet for smart, there's really no smart, we got USGBC, we got ASHRAE for the engineers, but there's really no local connection point for, people in the smart building industry. And I was amazed, Brad's done a fantastic job up there. In fact, you guys should probably get him on. And
we've had Brad on the show.
Yeah, we've had him on. Yeah, you're right. He's a very dynamic individual.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic, and he's done a great job with that. So as a result of the success of Big TC, Building Intelligence Group Twin Cities, we're going to start Big Shy here in April. So we're going to get the same. We're going to basically start the Chicago franchise here. Nice. So for anyone out there that's in the Chicago area, hit me up and I'll give you the details on the first meeting. It's going to be on April 11th here. We're going to hold the first one at our office, and looking for volunteers and community members and everything else. So we're looking to get a good group here to kick off the first one.
Roy, I got one other critical question to ask you before I lose it, and that is, how's the soccer program going? I understand last time we talked to you, you were in your soccer outfit because you were headed out to practice.
Great. You know what? I got one thing on my mind for soccer. And it's funny you say it. I didn't pre-plan this or anything, but I've got Liverpool, happened to have my Liverpool jersey.
There you go.
There we go.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'm a big Liverpool fan, so nervous times at the moment as we run in here for the Premier League. Hopefully, this is the first year in many, many years since 92, I think, when we last won it. So.
Well, we got a pretty good soccer team down in Atlanta now. That's making.
You do awesome. Yeah. Atlanta United, yeah. No, I'm a big Chicago Fire fan as well.
There you go. So I
wish they were doing nearly as good as your guys' team are doing. Yeah.
You got to pay more money. They bought big. They paid the handsome. Yep, they got the big number and score. So hey.
The other thing too, Roy, I wanted to sort of ask and sort of cycle back around to. It seems like you're doing things and getting things done that, we see very few consultants sort of getting the traction you are in terms of changing, how people are doing building automation controls and making them more emotional and all that stuff. For our audience, I might not know, you guys have offices, I think, in 30 countries or thereabouts.
30 locations, yeah.
Okay.
So the majority of those are in North America. We've got an office in Shanghai, Dubai, and Nairobi. That's the kind of global reach. Okay. But yeah,
So I was just curious if you see things done differently in different countries, and is that part of how you guys are sort of being innovative, the fact that you sort of have a global perspective instead of just a North American perspective?
I think it's definitely an advantage. I think myself personally, obviously have a lot of interactions with my old college buddies who are working across the world, and Europe's always kind of been a front runner. But I truly believe we're in the right place here in North. There's so much exciting things going on here in North America. I think the change is happening. It's going to happen from here. There's so much innovation, so much people. I mean, it's mainstream now. We're not talking about something on the periphery. When you see big players like the GSA, when you see people like Chicago Public Schools, I've mentioned they're public sector entities. The thing I actually personally got most enjoyment is working with developers. I enjoy the fast-paced, nature of working with developers. And when you start to see, the people who are typically focused on, dollars and cents and bottom line, and that's it. That's got to be like that. When they start to focus on wellness and amenities, that again, it's still dollars and cents. It's still attracting and retaining the best tenants in your building. It's still attracting and retaining the best talents for those tenants. So when you start to see, smart building strategies start to filtrate into the mainstream because it makes sense for these dollar-driven developers to do it, that's a win-win.
Yeah, because it seems like the buildings are going to be more competitive. As Ken St Clair, who's our resident millennial here, has pointed out that, you better have a nice space if you want me to come into the office and work. So I think, there's a lot of awareness about wanting to have a great space, an energy efficient space, and obviously a space that leads to productivity. So it seems like that conversation is shifting where you say developers and owners are more open to having that versus just being driven by energy or low-cost wind. So hopefully that trend will continue.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the most progressive developers we're working with here locally in Chicago is Sterling Bay. They've developed Google's Midwest headquarters, McDonald's global headquarters, moved downtown from the suburbs, Groupon, go down the list. And, we're doing a lot of work with them on their existing building side, but also we're really lucky in Chicago that we've got a very progressive utility as well. So we've got ComEd in Chicago, and we've got some legislation at the state level, like the Future Energy Jobs Act, that kind of mandates that these guys have to invest in energy efficiency programs. But we've got the monitoring-based commissioning program here in Chicago, which is really it's a fantastic deal for any owner operator of buildings, where we can get fault detection diagnostic platforms that we all know and love integrated, and get that data analytics integrated pretty much for free for the operator. The utility incentive program is paying for that.
Nice.
And then there's an incentive on the energy savings after that. So that's great. That's it's energy driven, but I think now we're starting to see owners see the value of scrubbing that data, organizing that data, have it, following the HVAC methodology, and now start to leverage that into newer, okay, well, now we have this data. What else can we, all right, we got the building automation system data, the lighting control system data, can we cross-reference that with our, conference room management, the conference room booking system, and how can we optimize the workflow? How can we optimize the workspace?
Ken St Clair, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to wedge in here this. Before you came on, we were talking about the community of practice. We were talking about actually Teresa's article. She's another Irish lady, so you'll love her. But anyway, what I just heard you saying is you're a big embracer of communities of practice, and I'll call Haystack a community of practice, as possibly BackNet and many others. But what you're doing is you're using these communities of practice as building blocks in your consulting firm. And then the thing that I was impressed with is you were now creating a new smart building community of practice and bringing that to Chicago. So that was kind of an interesting, what I heard you say. So
absolutely,
it's interesting that we use these things as building blocks to build a better community of a particular practice. And it's kind of interesting how that does it. And we were talking about when you actually adopt, maybe that's a good word, adopt a community of practice. With it comes all of its resources and people. And this allows us to grow, I think, quickly and to make the radical changes we have to make.
Absolutely, yeah. I think and building blocks is a great kind of analogy for what's happening here in Chicago specifically, because we've got these programs, that are kind of, fostering or enhancing best practices, so now owners are starting to see the benefits of interoperable, using data for something other than, the base level of saving energy, right, and optimizing systems. But now, now we've done that. Where can we go from here? So, 100%, yeah, it's really exciting.
Well, the community. just keeps growing, kind of thing. It grows on itself and
Yeah,
reinforces
absolutely.
itself. And the biggest thing is, I find, is the communities within that community. They will have found another community of practice that will ultimately become important to us.
Absolutely. I mean, that allows. I mean, again, at the end of the day, we're a business. You know, we gotta keep the lights on. But you know, having a program like that allows us to generate the revenue to hire another engineer who's going to do nothing but write algorithms and write rules. You know, so we continue to grow and we continue to evolve our practice. You know, so our North Star at the end of the day is, you know, for us is optimizing it. You know, building optimization. That's what we call it. You know, so how can we leverage into you know, one of the world's largest design firms and start to impact the entire.
How do you grow
practice.
younger? Can you answer that one? How? So you're obviously heavily vested in growing younger. So how do you get these bright lights?
I don't know. I heard a good quote the other day that said, "We've never moved as fast as we have right now today, but we'll never move as slow again in the future." You know,
wow, that's a great
That's
quote.
a good one.
I can't take credit for that one, but
well, Kenny will take credit for it. Don't worry, he'll put that. Well, listen, Roy, as we sort of wind it down here, and thank you so much. I want to ask you a kind of a final question here, and then also I want to make sure that our Control Trends community knows how to get hold of you and your firm. We have a lot of buildings listen, as well as integrators and school boards and all that stuff. So they're going to want to know how to get hold of you. But what are one or two mistakes you see building owners, and they could be school boards, it could be, you know, your other clients, that if you were going to talk to them just sort of as a friend and say, hey, whatever you do, make sure you do this or don't do that?
I mean, honestly, I'd say just have a plan, you know, look to the future. So, you know, I mean, it's pretty obvious really, but we're also focused on the short term and quick fix, and you know, let's take a step back for a moment and start to master plan out what we want to do with our building stock. You know, whether it's a school district, a college campus, you know, a large real estate investment trust. You know, I think there's front runners leading the way here that's going to lead to some really exciting case studies. I'm so excited about the case studies that we're going to flip outwards here, and you know, maybe you'll come back on here in about.
You have to promise to give us first access to that stuff, because we're excited. We've tracked that Harvard thing. In fact, Ken St Clair had that. All these stuff are starting to. It's like concentric circles. It's like the critical mass is getting. You know, it's condensing smaller and smaller, but with more incredible gravitational pull and importance. You know, so it's just exciting, super stuff.
Yep. No, it's amazing.
Always welcome to come back on the show. Hopefully we can get you back on. What do you say we touch base with you maybe once a quarter, or at least 2 times a year, 3 times a year? It's
absolutely.
Great having you
on. I'll probably see you guys at RealCom in Nashville. I'm sure you guys are going to be there. So sure. I'll try and touch base before that maybe. But yeah, we'd love to come back on and give an update.
And give us the website for you guys for our community.
So you can catch me at DLRgroup.com. Again, if you're in the Chicago area and are interested in taking part in the building intelligence group that we got going, hit me up on LinkedIn or as I said, at DLRgroup.com. And looking forward to what lays ahead here.
Okay, guys, man, the clock's running down. Kenny, any last thoughts?
No, again, thank you both for being on the show. Rory, very, very well done. And, you know, I think the way you're so articulate, the way you're really bringing all those issues together, again, it's exciting because we're seeing the needle move. We're seeing progress. I wish our area of the country was as advanced and adept at, you know, taking on changes and bringing it home into the school classrooms as quickly as possible at every opportunity. But any final thoughts or anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, as I said, it's a hugely exciting time to be in the industry. I mean, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and same with my team. You know, we feel like we are moving the needle. You know, we're able to impact an industry, and not just DLR Group. I'm talking about our community in general. You know, there's really exciting times ahead for the smart building community, and you know, the sky's the limit.
All righty.
So, I just want to say, thanks very much, guys, for having me on, and looking forward to connecting again in the future.
Well, we'll definitely have you back on. And Ken St Clair, we're going to bid you adieu too. Thank you so much. Again, the Automated Buildings March issue is out. And I tell you what, between these two guys right here, I mean, you don't have to worry about anything the rest of the month because you're covered. Guys, thanks so much. Man, great stuff from those two guys. What great stuff. And hey, we got a birthday girl today, don't we?
A very special birthday girl. We have Angie Jarvis is turning 22 years old. She turned 22 years old on Friday. She got younger. She has that special functional devices capability to not get older but get better. And congratulations and happy birthday, Angie Jarvis.
Happy birthday. And if you have not been lucky enough to meet Angie Jarvis, do yourself a favor, call Functional Devices or call your local distributor, spend $8, get a rib relay, and say, I want to meet Angie. Will you have her delivered? She is one of the all-time greats. Her and Sarah Montaloni from Connect Air and Wire are two of the all-time great people in our industry. Love both of them. So, Angie, happy birthday to you. And with that, Kenny Smyers.
Well, we got one or two other shout-outs real quick. We got say happy birthday.
Wait a minute. Angie does not share shout-outs.
Angie is the most generous woman I've ever met.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Who else has
No, we just wish James Workman a happy birthday. Travis Russell, he gave us a like. There's some Control Trends people that are giving us good comments and supporting our LinkedIn efforts. Phil Smith, again, another like. Rocky Moore celebrating 2 years of Automated Logic. He used to be a local guy. He worked for Pittsburgh.
Yeah. American Automatrix, and then he went to, was it Blue Ridge Technologies he worked
Blue Ridge Technologies. Boy, you got a great memory. How do you do it, Eric? You taking special medicines or whatever?
Yeah, I do it. It's supposed to make me more attractive to my wife.
And putting in artificial intelligence.
Makes me smarter, yeah.
Makes you smarter, okay. All right, well, there you go. And
what I tell myself anyway.
Seth Wald from Siemens, he gave us a like. And a lot of folks are commenting on some of the post videos coming up. Dylan Roelke mentioned that he wrote back and said, thank you, the HVAC expert on marketing.
Yeah.
And the last one, we have Scott Bush. He's 7 years at Fair St. Louis. And congratulations to Scott Cross for 25 years at Temperature Control Systems in Texas.
Way to go, Scott Cross. If you're down in Texas, you better buy your controls from Scott Cross or he'll hunt you down like the boy dog that he is. All right, Kenny Smyers. With that, a very special thanks to our two guests today, Roy Barnwell and the one and only Auto Ken, Didactic, Disruptive St Clair. So with that, have a great week. Remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant, and be a little bit disruptive.
Indeed.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. And that's all right.